All right, let's jump right in because today we are looking at something absolutely fascinating in this explainer. We're taking on the ghosts, the monsters, and the curses that have literally haunted human imaginations for decades. But as you know, we don't just sit around telling spooky campfire stories here. We look at the evidence. We're going to explore how supposed supernatural entities are actually born from wild, extreme chemical and physical anomalies.
Okay, let's dive into this. Think of today's agenda as our very own paranormal case files. We'll be covering 1. Myths made by science, 2. Case 1, the toxic lady, 3. Case 2, the green man, and 4. Reframing the paranormal.
First up, Section 1, Myths Made by Science, Uncovering the Anomalies. Throughout history, there's been this really clear, categorical pattern. Terrifying monsters and completely inexplicable curses have eventually, without fail, been totally resolved by the cold, hard lens of science. So I really want you to ask yourself, what if historical curses were just chemistry? You know, we've all heard these wild tales of cursed individuals or bizarre events that just seem to defy the laws of nature. And honestly, it is so easy to jump straight to the paranormal. But when you actually strip away the superstition and look at the elements at play, you don't find a ghost at all. You find a rare chemical reaction or this extreme physical anomaly that is, honestly, even more mind-blowing than the myth itself. Let's look at the data and see exactly how this works in practice. Let's move to and see how this builds in Section 2, Case 1, the toxic lady, a medical mystery. Okay, picture the scene. It's 1994. A woman named Gloria Ramirez arrives at a hospital seeking urgent care. Now, initially, this just starts as a highly stressful but pretty standard medical emergency. The staff jumps right into action. But the moment medical personnel draw her blood, something absolutely unthinkable happens. Her drawn blood begins releasing these strange, terrifyingly toxic fumes right into the enclosed space of the ER. I mean, it's exactly the kind of spontaneous, deadly event that, if it happened a century earlier, would absolutely have been labeled a supernatural curse. And the impact was immediate. 23. That is the massive number of hospital workers who suddenly fell ill just from being in the same room as those fumes. Several of them even passed out completely. Just think about that, an entire medical team totally incapacitated by the simple act of drawing blood from a single patient. But as wild as it sounds, this wasn't dark magic at work. It was extreme biology. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the exact clinical chemistry chain reaction that caused this. It wasn't a hex, it was an incredibly rare, perfectly aligned biological storm. Step 1, scientists believe Gloria had been using a substance called DMSO for pain relief at home. Step 2, she was unfortunately experiencing severe internal organ failure, and that unique, failing biological environment actually altered the chemical structure of the painkiller she'd taken, which leads us straight to Step 3. This internal change converted the standard DMSO into a highly toxic fumes that literally vaporized into the air. To be highly specific about the science here, the pain relief chemical converted into DMSO2 and DMSO4. These are extremely toxic compounds created solely because her failing organs acted almost like a pressurized chemical reactor. This poor woman was suffering from a profound medical emergency, not a curse. It's a deeply tragic, completely fascinating biological anomaly that just happened to create a momentary, real-life horror story for the medical staff, driven entirely by the unyielding rules of chemistry. Moving right along to Section 3, Case 2, The Green Man, a rural legend. And this brilliantly illustrates the staggering divide between myth and reality. For decades, local legend described this terrifying green man who supposedly haunted the dark rural roads of Pennsylvania at night, a monster whose face literally glowed green in the headlights of passing cars. But the true, heartbreaking source of this story was a man named Raymond Robinson. Raymond wasn't some spooky monster. He was the survivor of a catastrophic power line accident. 22,000 volts. I mean, just pause and think about the extreme physics involved here. Raymond survived this unimaginable 22,000-volt electrical shock when he was just an 8-year-old child. When you hear that massive number, the ghost story instantly fades away, right? And what you're left with instead is this profound testament to immense human physical resilience. So that haunting visual that terrified passing motorists for years, the face that purportedly glowed green in the dark, was actually just the severe physical scarring and disfigurement from that extreme electrical trauma. Because of how cruelly society reacted to his injuries during the day, Raymond chose to take his walks at night, just to avoid causing a stir and to enjoy his life in peace. The terrifying supernatural entity of local lore was, in reality, just a deeply injured man going for a quiet nighttime stroll. Which brings us to our final section. Section 4, Reframing the Paranormal. Science Stranger Than Fiction. So the crucial point is this. When we take a step back and apply the scientific method to our darkest legends, the supernatural vanishes. But what remains is actually far more compelling. We can reframe supposed curses as extreme clinical chemistry. We can reframe terrifying monsters as incredibly brave survivors of extreme physics. Time and time again, we see historical myths completely resolved by the steady application of science. The real world, with its wild chemical reactions and its incredible stories of physical survival, is way stranger and infinitely more deeply human than any ghost story we could ever invent. Which leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. If extreme science so neatly explains our past monsters, what magic will science explain tomorrow? The world around us is just packed with undiscovered anomalies waiting for their time under the microscope. Keep questioning the unknown, keep looking closely at the data, and most importantly, keep learning.